Welcome to Iowa Floor Covering, a locally owned flooring store in Bondurant, Iowa that specializes in do-it-yourself projects. If you're a contractor or a DIYer, Iowa Floor Covering has your back. Right now at Iowa Floor Covering, get tough core click-together 4.5 millimeter waterproof vinyl flooring for $269 per foot when you install it yourself. That's a much better value than you'll find at any of the big box stores. Looking for other types of flooring? They can help with that too. Between their exceptional product knowledge and commitment to customer service, the guys at Iowa Floor Covering will provide everything you need to complete your DIY flooring project. So what are you waiting for? Skip the box stores now and visit iowafloorcovering.com/DIY. That's iowafloorcovering.com/DIY. Promotional pricing only available with self-installation. Good evening, Iowa fans everywhere. It's the 27th day of July. Hope I'm coming in loud and clear wherever you are. And we're wrapping up, we've wrapped up Big Ten Media Days with the coaches, players, etc. Lots of notes here I've got to share with all of you, at least from what I gathered. Iowa related. I did a live show earlier today over with Mark Rogers on a Bleacher Report stream, actually. So appreciate Bleacher Report having Mark and I. But we talked a little bit about just some general reaction from the Big Ten. We're going to spend at least the next hour here, folks, chatting with you. I'm assuming as we got about 57 people on here right now, most of you, probably all of you are Hawkeye fans. Be sure to do me a favor, folks. If you're enjoying the coverage and you want more live streams, more podcasts, more obviously post-game coverage, which I can tell you is coming regardless this fall, be sure to like the video. Just scroll down, hit that little thumbs up button, perhaps even share the show out on social media. And I can just tell you this right now, folks. Our sponsors are really important to us. They're really important to me personally. Without our sponsors, there would be no show. And without your support, there would be no show. So please remember to support our sponsors. And there is a way you can donate to the channel in the description. Several ways, actually, that you can donate to the channel. PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. You can donate by credit card if you want to, by means of PayPal, either a one-time donation or recurring thing. We've got lots of stuff coming down, folks, and we've had more content here over the past week, but we've got more coming. Big Ten Media Days in the books. We've got our preseason depth chart. We can talk about anything and everything this evening, but these shows are always better when you interact with me, all right? Nobody wants to hear me talk for an hour and a half, just to nobody, okay? The goal here is in a few days, we'll have another live stream, likely on either Sunday or Monday, and we're hopeful to have a special guest on during that live stream, and we'll start breaking things down and previewing fall camp specifically. I wanted to save both of our, we usually do two live streams, Hawkeye Hangout live streams during the off season. That's kind of the quota, but I wanted to save both of them to the end of the month because it was obviously going to be an action-packed end of the month with media days, with the depth chart reveal, and then as we approach fall camp starting in early August. So we'll have a kind of a preview of fall camp, and we'll take your calls during both shows. And certainly you can call by phone. You see the number on your screen. Let me throw it back up there for everybody. If you're new to the show, it's 515-635-1601. 515-635-1601. If you want to call and talk Big Ten football, Hawkeye football, etc. I'll also throw this up in the live chat in case you don't know how to access the description. I know that most of you probably say, what are you talking about? How do you not know how to access the description? Well, there are people out there. We appreciate you being here nonetheless. So I just threw the link up in the description if you want to join by StreamYard, and I accidentally wrote join the description. Whatever. Click the link, folks. You'll get into the show, and we'll talk Hawkeyes. All right, we've got a couple of people on hold already, so let's go ahead and take our first call of the day. Mr. James is with us. James, welcome to the show.
Good. How you doing, Corey? How have you been?
Doing good, man. How are you? How are you enjoying the summer?
You know, I'm doing all right. Just relaxing, just spending my off season as not coaching right now. Just spending my time at home as much as I can. But first off, a question not about Iowa, right? I know this is weird. I'm sorry for the question not about Iowa. You see Colorado's going back to the Big 12. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm glad you opened with that. It's a non-related Iowa question, but it's a good one. Yeah, Colorado back to the Big 12. I'm not surprised by it, given the wavy, I don't even know the shaky future of the Pac-12. I don't know what to make of that and the whole TV deal situation there. The Big 12 seems more stable. So I'm not shocked by it. It is going to be, if you look at the history of Colorado, the blip on the radar that was the experiment in the Pac-12 will look kind of weird when you look at their history. But I'm not shocked by it, and that helps it helps the Big 12. It's a win-win for both schools. And although Colorado is not a conference changer or that big of a difference maker right now, assuming Deion Sanders is going to be okay health-wise, he's had some health scares here recently. He might be able to get it done there and turn that program into a power. If there's anybody that can turn Boulder, Colorado into a power, it would probably be Deion Sanders. Now, that may or may not work. We just don't know. But I think it's a good risk for the Big 12, certainly a good decision for Colorado, and I'm anxious to see who else the Big 12 adds. I'm sure they're not done.
Sure. Okay, so then going to media day, what is one thing that you heard Kirk say that you kind of like? What was one like happy thing you were excited to hear Kirk say? And was there anything that you thought was kind of like weird that you heard him say? If that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Weird?
Like,
Why do you
not
think
really weird. Not
weird?
really weird, but like you like kind of like, I don't know. I don't like that he said that, or I don't know if I like that he said that kind of thing.
I don't know what he liked when he said that. I'll tell you this. Let's start. You want to start with the good or the negative?
Either one, you choose. It's your show, so you choose.
Let's start with the negative, because I want to fill most of the show with the positives. There's not much negative to talk about in Big Ten Media Days, because when you're at Media Days, everybody's great. All the players are fantastic. The coaches are, godsends, etc. As far as negatives, though, the only thing I wish that Kirk didn't do, and I know it's easy for us. We criticize people all the time. This is kind of the job of a analyst or talking head or whatever you want to consider me. But the going back to defend past offenses, I had a problem with that to an extent. He was asked, as you knew he would be, he was asked about the offense and the future of the offense and how they've changed the offense. And I wish that Kirk would just focus on and embrace, yes, we're making changes. Just embrace it. Whether you're actually doing it or not, just embrace it. You've made changes via personnel, whether you wanted to or you were forced to or whatever. The scheme's looking different. The play calling's going to look different. They haven't done anything with the coaching staff. But I just wish that he hadn't made comments like we were pretty good offensively until the last couple of years. That's just hogwash. They have not been pretty good offensively until the last couple of years. They've been below average offensively almost his entire tenure. That is a fact. Go back and look at the numbers. So I don't like that quote. And once again, he brought up injuries at wide receiver last spring, and I'm talking like 2022 spring. He brought up the offensive line as reasons why. Again, no explanation as to why the offensive line was just so bad, except because they had inexperience. Why'd they have inexperience? Why weren't there older guys that were developed and stuck around the program? Again, accountability, I think, is lacking there. He compared 2021 to 2009. Not sure what the comparison was there. They couldn't run the ball for nothing in 2009. Go back and look at the data in that year with Adam Robinson and Brandon Wager. They weren't effective. Those two were promising young freshmen, but that was not a great offensive team. They had really good receivers, but they had a tremendous defense led by guys like Adrian Claiborne. And yes, they won an Orange Bowl, but just because you compare some data from 21 to 2009 when they happened to win an Orange Bowl does not mean anything to me. So I again, this is how Kirk looks at it. He looks at it from a macro standpoint, and I understand that perspective. We've been saying this for months. I try to look at football from a micro standpoint and from a unit by unit standpoint, and it's convenient for Kirk. I'm not saying he's being disingenuous at all. I think this is how he looks at things, but that would be the only thing. I wish that he could just say, we weren't good offensively. He did say that at one point. I wish he could just leave it at that and say, we're making adjustments here, here, and here, or even say, hey, we've made some changes as we do every year. You're going to have to wait and see what they were. He kind of said that, but I just wish that we didn't have to keep bringing up injuries and the young offensive line and all this ridiculousness. He did cite one other thing, James, before I move on to greener pastures. I don't know if you caught this, but I don't know if it was one of the side interviews or if it was when he was talking on the podium. But he did bring up the Nebraska game and how he kind of felt like that game slipped away. And it did, absolutely did. And he brought up Cooper DeJean going down with an injury. He brought up who else went down with an injury in that game? Someone else going down with an injury, and then he brought up Spencer Petras, and he talked about how we just weren't able to finish, and we weren't able to recover with those guys going down, and to lump Spencer, and I understand he has to do it from a politically correct standpoint. He lumps Spencer in with the importance of Cooper DeJean. Spencer was like 1 of 7 to start that game, if you recall. And one of the few reasons Iowa even had a chance to come back late in the game, I think, was because of Alex Padilla. So as bad as Padilla was at times, I thought that was a little bit of an unfair comment to Alex. Now, Alex is down at SMU now anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter. That would be the only criticism I have of Kirk Ferentz today. You asked for it. I don't even know if I would have brought it up had you not asked. But as far as positives are concerned, Kirk spoke very highly of both the running back room and the tight end room. Not at all surprised that he would speak highly of the tight end room. But when he lumped the running back room in with the tight end room, not saying he concluded that, or declared that those two position groups are neck and neck, but running back's a totally different looking room. A lot more youth. You've got 2 veterans in Luke Lachey and Eric Alt at the forefront of the tight end room. And you got Caleb Johnson, who's a true sophomore, leading the charge at running back. Jazzian Patterson, who's on the 2 deeps, 3 deeps, kind of with the running back room. He's a true sophomore. So I'm surprised that he did that, but that gives me optimism that he thinks this running back room can be pretty darn good. That's not shocking to me, but that's a pleasant surprise. We hope that pans out. Of course, we haven't started fall camp yet. The talk about Jay Higgins, there were a lot of questions about him. And rightfully so, because he's kind of flown under the radar with Jack Campbell and Seth Benson being at the forefront of that linebacker room for several years. I think Jay Higgins might be a little better than I've given him credit for based on the commentary and the dialogue. And he thinks that the O-line's going to be better. He thinks Connor Colby's going to be a lot better. He thinks Logan Jones is going to be a lot better. Once again, he talked about youth. He thinks they're a lot older this year. A lot of the guys are going into year 3. And although he says that, usually you don't get great until years 4 or 5, he thinks those guys will take a big jump this year. And, Dejon Parker's back healthy. They've got a group, they got Rusty Feth that's joined the mix. So all those things are good. I mean, it's hard to pick a lot of bad things from Big Ten media days.
Yeah, I mean, it usually is because, it's all hype up your team kind of thing. So I knew there probably wouldn't be much. I was just intrigued by what your thoughts were on each side of it. But one more question I feel like is a question that kind of goes into it. Like, obviously, there's not position battles everywhere, right? Obviously, who your starting corners are, right? Jamari and Cooper DeJean are starting corners, right? But what's the one position you're kind of intrigued by in the summer? Like what's the one position battle you think you'd be intrigued in going into, like, who'll be the starter week 1? If that makes sense. You get what I'm saying? Is that more offensive line, probably?
Well, I think that in an ideal world, Kirk would like to be able to say, yes, we've got 5 guys that we're confident with that are starters up front. But I think even more ideally, you have 5 starters, but you're comfortable with 4 or 5 more. If you can have 9 or 10 offensive linemen that you feel comfortable rotating in, that's great. Although I think Kirk would rather have a group of 5 that kind of are solidified, but the depth is there if necessary. So yes, that's a position group to follow. But honestly, James, my biggest position group to follow this summer, or this fall, I should say, is without question wide receiver. Caleb Brown, Seth Anderson, not shocked they weren't listed on the depth chart. But just knowing how Kirk operates, those guys are not automatic starters. And I know Caleb Brown made the comment, I believe it was to the Des Moines Register last week, that he believes he's an automatic impact guy. He was never a starter at Ohio State. He's really young. A lot of fanfare coming here. I've heard nothing but good things about the kid's attitude. Obviously, he's got great upside. He was highly recruited at high school. And nothing but good has been said about Caleb Brown. But my point is, that is still the position group to follow in my mind. I'd like to see Nico and Seth Anderson, of course, Caleb Brown be the top 3 guys, because I think those guys have the greatest upside. Now, maybe Jacob Bostic or one of the true freshmen mix in as well. I've talked about maybe Alex Mota being a guy. I know someone else I know that's connected to the program thinks that the staff thinks very highly of true freshman Dayton Howard. So I think wide receiver is my most fascinating, because I still think you basically know, for the most part, James, who the 8 or 9 guys who have got a good chance of playing. Maybe we don't know the 5 guys who are going to start, but I think it's more than likely that Iowa rotates offensive linemen. They've done that the last couple of years. Not saying that's the ideal world. I just don't have a ton of confidence that Kirk will achieve that ideal world, if that makes sense.
For sure. And one more thing. Or did you think it was funny that Kirk called Nico a senior citizen pretty much at this point?
He kind of did the same thing with Logan Lee last year, and Logan Lee's still in the program. Remember, he made a comment about how Logan Lee was
Well,
married.
I mean, he was married. Yeah, he's married at the time.
Wagon.
So
yeah.
But I thought that was a little funny. But enjoy your night, and I'll be here to watch. And I just wanted to see how you were, making sure everything was all right because it's been a while. And excited for football, and hopefully we can have a good year this year and get many wins. One more thing to kind of go off with you. Do you think anything will come out of the PJ Fleck thing or not?
The PJ Fleck thing. What are you talking about?
You didn't see the rumor where like they were talking about like it was run like a cult and like some of the players were making allegations against him. Did you not see that?
Is this in addition to the allegations that were made against him months ago?
It just came out yesterday. They brought it up to him today. I think I was at work, but I seen them bring it up to him today.
Honestly, I didn't see. I didn't catch all of PJ's media availability, so that's a good question. It looks like James just dropped off, but yeah, there were some weird allegations. Was it almost a year ago against PJ Fleck that were kind of hard to figure out? And now with the situation at Northwestern, again, sometimes this becomes a snowball effect. It really didn't happen that much in 2020 when the Iowa racial stuff started to occur, but you wonder if the hazing allegations and all of what's occurred with Northwestern and Pat Fitzgerald being relieved of his duties, if that has a snowball effect. And I wondered how, there have been some former players that have said some odd things about PJ Fleck. Some swear by him, but there have been some other players that have said some very odd things about PJ Fleck. Good to see Erica here. She's one of our premium subscribers. We appreciate you sticking with us throughout the off season, Erica, as well as Barbara. She's one of our premium subscribers. So, Barbara and Erica representing the women folk out there. We appreciate that. HawkFan92 is here as well. It's miles per gallon. Most shocking news of the week. Kirk read his own depth chart. He did indeed. Let's get to our phone lines. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Rapids.
Hey, Kyle. How are you?
I'm doing good. You?
I'm hanging in there. We got a little over a month. I'm going to try to get a lot of stuff done before the start of September, but I'm equally as excited to get football back. How about you?
So am I. I'm so excited. Got my Quinn Schulte jersey ready. I'm ready to go.
Quinn Schulte jersey. Well, that guy's getting some preseason hype. I'm surprised by that, and good for him. I hope he fulfills it because, boy, if he's as good as some of the projections are making him, and I thought he was fine last year, but if he takes a step into being an all Big Ten caliber free safety, boy, that DB room is stacked. That secondary is going to be maybe elite. If Xavier Wampa fulfills expectations, you put him next to an all Big Ten free safety in Quinn Schulte. And if you can stay healthy with Cooper DeJean and then whoever the other guy is, I know James made a comment about how Jamari is basically the odds-on starter. That's probably true, but Jamari also, not to bring up past issues, but he missed a lot of time last year due to injury. He had an alcohol-related arrest at one point in his career. Phil Parker's not afraid of playing younger guys. If TJ Hall or Deshaun Lee or one of those guys emerges, Zach Lutmer, who's a true freshman, who knows? But you're right. If Quinn Schulte can be what I think you and I both think he can and what the media thinks he can be, this secondary is going to be really good.
Yeah, they'll be good, and just hopefully defense plays good, and the offense helps them out a lot this year. And we need the offense to play better so the defense can get some rest in and be ready to hit somebody when they go back out there.
That would be nice.
Staying cool from the heat.
Doing what I can. AC's still working. What about yours? Your AC working?
Yeah, AC's working and went to the pool yesterday to cool off. And I work in a warehouse, so we had to keep all the garage doors shut and fans. But they provided us with Gatorade water yesterday and today. They're going to do that again tomorrow.
we'll stay safe tomorrow. We're going to get a bit of a cool down on Saturday. I'm going to spend some time outdoors, so that'll be nice. And it's going to get hot again next week. And hopefully we get all this heat out of the way in August, and it's hot for the fair and hot for fall camp, and then it cools down by September.
Yeah, just get ready for the football. Let's start with the preseason depth charts. Like, what's the thing I wanted to know? Like, what you like most about, like, the thing you like the most, or the thing you don't like the most. Let's start. Like, what do you like most about the preseason depth chart?
What do I like most about the preseason depth chart? That's a good question. I guess I never thought of it that way. In fact, I guess we could, if we're going to talk depth chart, which is fine. We got time here. Let's go ahead and throw the depth chart up for everybody in case you missed it. And I did publish a video on this yesterday. Let's just throw this up on the screen if I can. Perhaps. Let's see here. This is the offensive depth chart that was released. I am not reading too far into this. Kirk downplayed it as he always does. I don't even know who's making them. If Kirk is making, I'm sure Kirk is, contrary to what he'd have you believe, I'm sure he has somewhat of a role in deciding who's released to the media on this depth chart. Here is the depth chart. I can get rid of the bottom ticker for now. So that's offense. Yeah, I mean, people were kind of surprised by the wide receiver depth chart, given that the fact that there's, 2 walk-ons on the depth chart and no Caleb Brown and no Seth Anderson. Again, I don't read too much into that. Seth didn't play much in the spring. Caleb Brown just got here. Kirk cited exactly that in some of his poolside style interviews at media days. I don't really see any other results here or listings here that really surprised me. I did find it a little bit intriguing that Kirk made a point of saying that he thinks Connor Colby will end up playing exclusively at guard. Connor has played some tackle, and at 6'6", 311, you look at him and think, boy, he might be that prototypical tackle. Apparently not. He and Nick DeYoung, who are almost the same size, at least according to the depth chart in the roster, are both listed at that left guard position. Rusty Feth is going to be a name to watch at right guard. Dejon Parker, if he can stay healthy. But there's really no other surprises here. I'm intrigued by Hayden Large at fullback. Saw him play during spring ball and was pleasantly surprised by what a 6'5" fullback looks like in the Iowa offense. So yeah, I wouldn't really say any surprises on that side. I guess we can look at the, why don't we go ahead and look at the defense and special teams. Perhaps let's see if we can get it up here. There it is. So yeah, I mean, lots of depth in the defensive line. No surprise there. Sebastian Castro and Jackson Rexroth both listed there at Leo/Cash. Who will be the other linebacker to mix in? My guess is it's going to be a combination of Higgins, Jackson, and Fisher, with guys like Carson Shire maybe getting into the mix at times. He's a young guy from Iowa Falls. Yeah, I mean, there weren't really any surprises, frankly. I am a little bit intrigued by the fact that you've got 2 redshirt freshmen, Cohen and Tringer, and Deshaun Lee listed as backups in the secondary, but those guys were listed back in spring as well. So special teams is stacked. It's consistent across the board. We kind of knew what to expect there, but yeah, not a lot of surprises for me. And even if there were, I wouldn't read too far into them.
Yeah, when I first saw the depth chart yesterday, like, I saw the receiver core, expected the 2 walk-ons. So I didn't expect Brown to be on there. He just got here. I totally understand that. Anderson, like, he's still recovering from that injury, didn't practice during spring ball. And the O-line, shocked that Kobe's a second string, but he's going to have to play harder to be better than that, to practice to get that starting role back, because he really took a step back last year and tackle.
Well, keep in mind, and I'm just repeating what Kirk Ferentz said, and I believe him on this. I don't think the starters/backups, especially an offensive line, mean a whole lot. So I wouldn't read too far into Colby listed as a backup. I mean, we've talked about this. There were rumors that certain guys on offense were going to leave. They ended up staying. And I can tell you at least one of those guys was along that offensive line. There hasn't been anybody that's emerged. I mean, this has been Look at the last 2 years. All these guys who have played over the last 2 years have been average at best. So it should be wide open this fall. They should all be better. So that's why you should be able to develop 8 to 9 deep, I would hope. And hopefully a couple, 4 or 5 emerge as unquestionable starters, because I think that's the ideal.
Yeah, if they don't really develop, if they don't really play well, like for the past 2 years, including the receivers course, I say this is George Barnett and Kellen Copeland's last chance of coaching for Iowa if they don't succeed.
If they don't succeed, what?
Like, if they're not playing well, their jobs could be in jeopardy. Sorry, but
Well,
clarified that.
Yeah, they probably should be. I don't know that they will be, because I think Kirk, he seems very defensive of his staff. He called George Barnett an unbelievable coach this week. I have no doubt those two position groups, well, especially offensive line, I have more confidence the offensive line will take a step forward than I do receiver, because I still don't buy into the idea, and I know we're jumping around here, I still don't buy into the idea that just because Iowa went and got Caleb Brown and Seth Anderson that they upgraded. They lost 2 guys to other Power 5 programs. Arlen Bruce and Keegan Johnson are both in Power 5 programs. And by the way, both in a Big 12 conference that features better offenses than the Big 10. So I am concerned what you said, Kelton Copeland. He should be feeling some pressure. He got to get it done, because that wide receiver room has underachieved ever since he got here. And part of it's the system. We've talked about it. Part of it's play calling. But the bottom line is, your guys got to get open more. I know that's putting it pretty simply, but that's the fact of the matter. And there's not enough separation more often than not with any of these guys, even the guys who had better speed, like Amir Smith-Marset. Iowa's always, it seems like under Kelton Copeland especially, they've had issues with receiver involvement and receiver separation. And so hopefully with some young talent here, with some fresh talent, somebody can emerge. But Copeland's got to be at the forefront of that development.
Absolutely. Got to get it done. And I'm good to go to the defense for a second. Kind of like some of our guys, like some of them played, like on the D line, like Herkid, Graves. They could be big names. And Black, they couldn't make big plays this year. Help us a lot on the D line. And linebacker, Higgins need to step up. Hopefully Jackson will play as well, and on the hopefully, and again on the secondary, they're gonna play like there's no tomorrow.
Play like there's no tomorrow, man. And they got, like I say, they've got experience and a lot of skill in the kicking game with Torrey Taylor and Drew Stevens.
Yep, special teams helps out too. And the last thing I wanted to get to was media day. What you think of media day? I really don't pay attention to media day. I just focus on the season. So what do you think of Kirk's media day?
I thought he seemed relaxed. I thought he seemed confident. I'm kind of become tired of trying to read into Kirk preseason. I know so many people do that, especially in the media. It's all about reading into, and I just love it. As soon as Kirk was asked about, and I'm not ripping anybody specifically, but if you follow Iowa media, and that's not everybody, but certain people, as soon as he made a comment about how he thought Colby was going to be better and Jones was going to be better, and I mean, he was asked these questions. What else is he going to say? Yeah, I think they're going to suck worse. I mean, he's not going to say that, but he made a comment about those guys, and then, of course, everybody has to run to their keyboards and type up stories about how Kirk bullish on the offensive line. I mean, come on. I get tired of that. So I think the offensive line will be better, but I don't read too far into, maybe Kirk forgot his coffee a year ago, and this year he had one of the best lattes he's ever had. I don't know. I mean, there's lots of reasons why he might be more relaxed or happier on any given day. And I did think he seemed relaxed and confident yesterday. And if anything, it's a good sign, but I can't read too far into Big Ten Media Day at the end of July before fall camps even started.
Maybe he just feels relaxed, and maybe this year's going to be better than last year. That's what I'm guessing.
We can only hope, sir.
And was any of the Northwestern team there, or did I hear were they there or were they not?
That's a good question. Somebody else could probably tell you. I didn't watch. I didn't watch everything, so I don't know. I thought they announced they weren't sending a coach, but there were, or excuse me, they sent their coach. They sent their interim and not their players. I think somebody may correct me on that, but that's. I did not watch every. I don't even know who their coach is right now. I forgot the interim's name.
Their D coordinator, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just shocked to see what was going on at Northwestern and how it happened under Fitzgerald. But there's not always a happy ending to a coach who's always been loyal to your alma mater.
Yep, and thank you to Tony in the chat. He says Northwestern players were not there. So, yep.
Well, anyway, that's all I got to say for tonight. Hopefully you stay cool tomorrow, and can't wait for the season to start.
Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for the call. All right, folks. Phone line is open, 515-635-1601. Let's throw something in here before we get to our next call. Coming up during our next live stream, which I told you will be likely Sunday or Monday, somewhere in there, I'll be giving away some tickets. Not Iowa football tickets, so don't soil yourself. Tickets to see the Black Keys at the Iowa State Fair. Okay? Tickets to see the Black Keys, one of the greatest rock bands of the 21st century. Don't shoot me if I say that. I believe that to be true. Rock really took a dip after the, I think, out of the 90s. Some people would probably argue the 80s. The Black Keys were one of the few rock and roll groups that I had admiration for and respect for. They will be at the Iowa State Fair Grandstand on August 14th. And we've got your chance to win tickets. So tune in, because we gave away tickets. What did we give away tickets to last time? The Good Guys car show. Forgot about that already. Gave away tickets to Good Guys down at the State Fair. And I know our listener who went down there said he had a great time. No strings attached, folks. Your opportunity to win tickets here. And we'll continue to do contests periodically. But again, the Black Keys with the Velveteers opening up for them at the Iowa State Fair Grandstand in Des Moines, August 14th. Tune in during our next live show for details on how to have a chance to win those tickets. And probably give away a couple pairs of general admission State Fair tickets as we did last year as well. So lots of stuff coming. Stay tuned for that. All right, we've got Jackson, we've got Tony on hold, and we've got lots of comments still to come here. We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsor. From the Man Cave, Kinnick Under the Kitchen, authentic, original player art prints are being drawn up for Hawkeye fans everywhere. From Under the Kitchen's Murray Legacy print, which features former Hawkeye Kenyon Murray, current Hawkeye Chris Murray, and current Sacramento King Keegan Murray, to football players Lucas Van Ness, Torrey Taylor, and Cooper DeJean, to wrestlers Tony Cassiope, Alex Marinelli, and Real Woods. Oh, and only one of the greatest athletes to ever compete at Iowa, Spencer Lee. There are so many options available, and they make great gifts. Visit Under the Kitchen on Facebook or at Under the Kitchen's new website. It's underthekitchen.square.site. That's underthekitchen.square.site. Check out Under the Kitchen today and get your authentic, original Hawkeye print. Appreciate Randy and Under the Kitchen. And if you've lost track, a couple of our sponsors have surpassed a year with us here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. And Randy's one of those guys. So thank you to Randy. And again, if you haven't supported people like Randy and you've been watching, I'm asking you very politely, please support Randy. Good guy, great art. And again, a big part of this show for the last year, and continues to trudge along with us. And that's not always easy to run a business like that, especially during the off season. So we appreciate Randy sticking with this throughout the year. All right, let's go back to the phone lines. We've got Jackson. Jackson, welcome to the show, sir.
Oh, thank you for having me on, Court. This is my first time ever on from the Hawkeye of the Storm.
How are you, buddy?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Where are you calling from?
I'm from Alabama.
Are you a Hawkeye fan?
No, I'm afraid not, but I keep up with a lot of college football.
I was going to say, because you've got an interesting studio behind you. Am I seeing a wall? Am I seeing a green screen? What am I looking at?
It's a wall. My
Okay.
dad helped me with it. He did
Well,
such a fantastic job.
it looks awesome. I appreciate you calling in and supporting the show, and I know you support the show with Mark Rogers, so I appreciate that as well.
Oh man, I love the Iowa shows that y'all do. But I won't talk about the Iowa offense because I have a feeling you hear about it like 100 times a day. But I do want to discuss a little bit about the TV contracts with the Big Ten. Starting this year, we're seeing Fox, CBS, and NBC get a piece of the Big Ten. What do you think about that, man?
I love it. I think it's great. I think to have the national spotlight on non-cable networks, if you will, like the fact that Iowa's going to be on it. I saw Iowa, the NBC schedule was released here. At least it was leaked to the media here a day or two ago. I saw Iowa Purdue's going to be a night game. I have nothing against night games other than the fact that it keeps me up late for post-game shows. And that's fine. I don't mind talking to people at midnight, but sometimes people have had a few rum and cokes at that point in time. So, but anyways, no, I'm excited. I think it's great. I love the different personalities, and I'm the type of guy. I know some people are like, who cares about what channel it's on? Who cares who the commentators are? I think Mark Rogers is one of those guys. I enjoy it. I mean, I like being able to hear, Kirk Herbstreit one week, which you're not going to get Kirk for a while. It doesn't look like because he's with ESPN. Joel Klatt, Gus Johnson, maybe even now Mike Tirico with NBC. Who knows? I like that, and I think it's going to be fun just to have featured time slots for this conference, and then, of course, more CBS games after this year.
Oh, man. I bet Gary Danielson was really happy yesterday. He's like, yes, I'm back to calling Big Ten games.
Yeah, he's another one. And I was never a big fan of Vern Lundquist. And so I'm not sad that he's kind of – did he retire last year? Am I a year behind?
Vern retired in 2016 from college football commentating, but he retired – oh, man.
With all due respect to Vern Lundquist, that's a perfect example of how little I cared for his. Not that I hated the guy personally. He's probably a very nice guy. I just didn't care for his style. But yeah, I like that kind of thing. I'll be sad that they're probably going to get College Game Day on ESPN less because of the politics behind this. But you've got Big Noon Kickoff, which should be fun. And
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what NBC and CBS have planned? Maybe they'll start doing similar type of pregame stuff.
Like, I'll be honest, I always get excited when I hear Gus Johnson go, oh, touchdown, touchdown.
It is an iconic, the 2015 Michigan State Beathard to Smith play is iconic, and he's had so many for so many different teams. I know some people think he's annoying. He mispronounces names, but I like the guy, and I've heard nothing but good things about him as a person.
Oh, man, Gus Johnson and Sean McDonough, they are awesome commentators. I mean, everybody talks about Brad Nessler and, Joe Testor and Chris Fowler.
I like Chris Fowler. I got a lot of respect for Chris Fowler, but I also grew up a big tennis guy, and he does, he's like all tennis now, so that's fine.
But like Sean McDonough with that puberty voice of, come on, touchdown. I love it when he does that. I mean, that's like, it's college football when you hear Sean McDonough with that voice.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I want to go over my Iowa prediction. I don't know if you'll like it or not, but however, I do think the Big Ten West Division is going through like somewhat of a transition. Because, I mean, like Purdue, they're transitioning for like first year Coach Walters. Now, Northwestern, they're transitioning for obvious reasons. And Wisconsin, Nebraska, I mean, they're going to be great, but they're not ready to win the Big Ten West yet. Illinois, I'm thinking they're a 7-5 team. Minnesota, if you watch my appearance on Mark Rogers' Voice College Football Big Ten Live Show 17 on the 40-minute mark, you will know that my one guarantee for 2023 is Iowa beating Minnesota, because PJ Fleck cannot quite get it done against Iowa. He's not going. But my two losses at the regular season for Iowa are Penn State under the lights of CBS. And sorry to say, but Black Friday, I think Nebraska is going to clinch bowl eligibility at your expense. And I think Michigan is going to take down the Big Ten title game, but I could see y'all getting in a New Year's Six bowl.
So you're predicting Jackson, if I have this correct, you're predicting 10-3 with 2 straight losses to end the season before the bowl game.
Unfortunately, yes, but I think y'all could win the bowl game.
So you're looking at 10-1 heading into Nebraska, and do you know how much of a deflating loss that would be if they lose to Nebraska, and they could be 11-1 because you're 11-1. Then you know the Big Ten championship game is a de facto playoff quarterfinal game because they're in the playoff if they go 12-1 Big Ten champs.
It'll be fun for sure because but like Wisconsin, I think that's going to be like a 20-17 victory for Iowa. Yeah, because that's going to be a fun game on NBC.
Is Iowa Wisconsin NBC? I missed that one. Is that NBC?
Yeah, that's on NBC. That's where we'll get to see Todd's Taste of the Town. So that'll be really fun. But I do see Iowa getting revenge on Iowa State.
Game is in Ames this year. I know there's some excitement about certain positions in the field for Iowa State. They're dealing with some gambling consequences as well. Both these teams are likely to be affected by the gambling controversy in week 2. So they'll both go up against, who knows? I don't say shell of themselves. I don't think either head coach seemed real concerned about personnel. But I do think from what I've heard, there's a good chance, at least with Iowa State. I can't speak as much for Iowa, which is ironic because I'm doing an Iowa show here. But from the people I know with Iowa State, it sounds like they're going to have guys suspended. Now, maybe it's 1 game, maybe it's 2 games, maybe it's 6 games. I have no idea. I would think that the Iowa infractions are similar, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, one benefit I was going to mention for Iowa's schedule is this. No Michigan, no Ohio State. That's going to help y'all a lot.
Unfortunately, Wisconsin fans can say no Penn State, no Michigan, and we get Ohio State at home. So they've got almost as easy of a schedule as Iowa. They may have an easier schedule, frankly, because they get Ohio State at home. Iowa has to go on the road to Penn State. You could argue it either way. I've argued this with Mark before.
I'm glad you mentioned Wisconsin because I had them go. Iowa's going to be their first loss. So Iowa may just do the jump around at their expense. That'll be funny. I think Ohio State's going to win a tight one. Then I think Minnesota is going to spoil their shot at the 10-win season for the time being. It's funny, though, like 2004 to 2017, Wisconsin has had Minnesota's number. Ever since 2018, Minnesota's had a winning record against Wisconsin. That's big. I mean, people talk about the Bama winning streak over Tennessee prior to last year. But nobody talked about Wisconsin's winning streak over Minnesota prior to 2018.
And Jackson, for the most part, over the last decade, there are just certain teams on Iowa's schedule that they've had the opposite team's number, or maybe the opposite teams had their number. Iowa State's an example. Iowa's historically, at least in the last 10 years, they've had their number. They've had Minnesota's number every year. And yet Purdue's had Iowa's number almost every year. Wisconsin's had Iowa's number, although Iowa now has won 2 of the last 3. Am I right in saying that, against Wisconsin? Going back to, 2 of the last 3, going back to COVID year. So, but anyways, different looking team too. They've also had Nebraska's number until last year. Different looking teams though, with Nebraska and Wisconsin with coaching changes. Illinois got some changes on the coaching staff. Purdue's got a head coaching change. So there's a lot of attrition there with coaches in this West Division. So you're right. It's a fascinating division.
Oh, it is for sure. It's just a shame that this is the last year for divisions because, like next year with USC, UCLA in, you would think the Big Ten would consider putting USC, UCLA in the West Division and then like put Purdue in the East Division.
Yep.
Like,
Sure, that was tossed around. Yeah.
Like, think about it. USC Iowa being a Big Ten West Conference game, or like UCLA Wisconsin, or UCLA Iowa. Those are fun to think about.
Absolutely.
I mean, I can't go to sleep just thinking about these games.
Well, you try to go. You got dark background behind you. You get some shut eye tonight, Jackson, and
I plan to. I mean, unless there's more breaking news events like Colorado yesterday, I'm just like, come on. I mean, man, like me's got to get some rest.
Well, we appreciate you calling in, Jackson. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you for having me on, Corey.
Thank you, sir. Have a good night. Thank you. Appreciate Jackson from the state of Alabama calling in, and a big Hawkeye, big college football supporter without question. We've got a couple of comments here in the chat that I wanted to get to. Nolan says, what are your thoughts on sports gambling investigation going on right now? I provided my thoughts here a second ago. This comment was up before that, so I apologize, Nolan. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're probably going to be impacted, whether it be for a game or two or whatever. But Kirk didn't seem too concerned about it. So, I mean, Noah Shannon's one of the guys that we know is involved with the investigation. And I had somebody say, well, how do you know he committed the crime? Not the crime, it's a violation. How do you know he actually gambled? He didn't admit to that. Well, I understand he didn't admit to gambling, but he admitted to being involved with the investigation. And, surmising what we can under that, I think it's fair to say he probably was betting. I seriously doubt that that's an indication that he was not betting. Obviously, this is not a crime, so we're not talking about the whole innocent until proven guilty. The principle still applies. I get that. But it's likely that we're going to see players like Noah Shannon impacted, but they can absorb that along that defensive line. That's why fall camp is so important, because they have an idea of who they could be missing. Even if they haven't gotten final decisions from the NCAA, they have an idea of who they could be missing. It's time to develop depth behind those positions, and hopefully they can do that. Cole says, any of you guys listen to Rule speak? Your thoughts? I like Matt Rule. I heard him speak prior to this week, and he seems to have humility that Scott Frost did not have. Now, maybe that's just a facade. I don't know. I think he's going to get it done there. Maybe not as quickly as Fickell gets it done up at Wisconsin, but I am impressed by Nebraska. I think this conference is loaded with great coaches. And I mean, the SEC and the Big Ten loaded with great coaches, and that's a big part of the reason why they're the top two conferences in the country. Tacoon says, Corey, with the recent transfers from Northwestern, such as the Michigan wide receiver transfer, you're talking about A.J. Henning, and now a 4-star OT that we tried to recruit. And his name escapes me, but yeah, he was, I don't even think he played yet. I think he just was he part of the 23 class? Anyways, do you see us trying to get, not 23 class, 23 class. Do you see us trying to get either despite being out of scholarships? I have no idea. I know the report was being tossed around within the last couple of days that Spencer Petras is no longer on football scholarship. I have not reached out for confirmation on that. That's the word out on the street right now. I think it was Scott Docterman that reported that. That could very well be the case. And again, scholarship count-wise, that may mean that they have one open, but I'd have to go back and look. And perhaps they don't. This late in the year, though, I don't know that it really matters, because I don't think they're going to be taking a Michigan I don't think they're going to be taking A.J. Henning. And who knows? The other kid could end up coming to Iowa as a gray shirt. Or maybe he goes somewhere else. That's also possible. Iowa does have a gray shirt for Grant Leaper. And you wonder now if the Petras situation is true, would that mean that Grant Leaper would take his scholarship? Again, questions I can't answer, but those would be good questions for the head coach. All right, let's go to our next caller, and we're going to put our phone line on hold. We'll be right back with you. Let's go over to Tony, who's been with us here for a while. Tony, welcome to the show.
How you doing, Corey?
What am I hearing in the background? Is it raining inside your place?
No, it shouldn't be. I mean, is it like staticky or something?
What am I hearing? Does anybody else hear that in the chat? Oh my goodness.
If it is, I can like re-hook up a different microphone or something. I'm just inside my garage.
Are you watching the Cubs game or something?
No, I'm got none of my TVs on. My air conditioner's up here. That's about it. Maybe it's echoing or something. I don't know. Maybe it's.
I've never heard anything like that. I don't know if anybody else can hear that. Yeah, Doc P says it sounds like there's a toilet flushing.
Oh, if it's that bad, I can try to.
Well,
do something
listen, if you've got
different.
some plumbing issues, feel free to call later.
No, I have no plumbing issues. I'm in a garage. There's no plumb. There's literally no plumbing. Yeah, so
that might be a problem as well, Tony. But anyways,
anyways, I had a question for you.
Go ahead.
Or do you want me to try a different microphone? I can do that if it's that bad.
Sounds like it's quieted down. Go ahead.
Okay. I listened to you. It was about a week ago, and you had not tried the Swarm beer yet. Have you tried the Swarm beer yet?
I have not. Neither has Kirk. In my defense, neither has Kirk. I can't see it. Neither has Kirk Ferentz, Tony. I've heard good things. I'm assuming you like it.
Yes.
Okay, that's
it's
positive.
quite delicious. Also, I smuggled 2 bottles of Swarm vodka across the Iowa-South Dakota border today as well. So
you smuggled it.
Well, I don't know if it, it's not sold in South Dakota. So I drove to Rock Rapids. There's a nice little liquor store. And the guy's a huge Hawkeye fan, and he has the vodka and the beer in stock. So it was nice to go across there and get some. It was only about like a 45-minute drive, so it wasn't too bad.
BJ, thank you for the question. Barbara has the answer. Kids Day is August 12th, which is a Saturday, open practice. And by the way, Tony, I would be more interested in trying. I'm not a huge beer guy. I never have been. I'll drink a beer or whatever, but I'd be more interested to try the Swarm vodka.
I had that for dinner with a Diet Dr. Pepper, and it was pretty good. It wasn't too bad.
Vodka and Dr. Pepper?
I had Diet Pop around. It was the only thing I could mix with it that I just had on hand. So
okay.
It was all right. I mean, I didn't mind. I like Diet Dr. Pepper. So, but I was going to ask you, or I guess a comment about a few questions. I've actually been interviewed by the IRGC before, the Racing and Gaming Commission, because I don't know if I told you I worked in the casino, and we had a similar situation to this. We had like a small football pool going on, and we were casino employees, and we all got interviewed by the Racing and Gaming Commission. And it was the easiest thing ever. They were just very nice and easy to talk to, and they said, yeah, we do the same things. They were just telling us, yeah, we have football pools and stuff like that, but you guys can't do it. And it was a decent number of employees at the casino I worked at, probably 80 plus that were involved. I don't think we need to be worried about the IRGC. I think it's more the NCAA that we need to be worried about with regards to the punishment. Is what I was getting at. Because I know IRGC cannot, the Racing and Gaming Commission cannot hand out punishment, but I don't think we need to be worried about their recommendation for punishment.
By the way, I like this comment from Darlo. I was listening to a podcast, and the new AD, Beth Getz, has already talked to Brad. Well, that's good. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. By the way, I want to make this very clear, and I'm not here to rip anybody, but I just want to clear the air on this. I talked about this about a month ago, that I had requested an interview with Gary Barta, and I was told to wait until early to mid-July. Early to mid-July passed, and it's been crickets. So I just want to let everybody know that it's the 27th day of July. He's got, 2 more days on the job officially. So that interview is likely not coming here, but I just want to let everybody know I tried. Okay. I tried to get Gary Barta on, and that doesn't surprise me that we couldn't.
What about Beth?
Would love to get Beth on, but she's not once she's in the position, she's going to be getting bombarded with interview requests. And I don't know if you know this, Tony, but I think it's fair to say that From the Hawkeye of the Storm probably isn't top priority when you're talking about the Iowa Athletic Department. You know what I mean? We'll just leave it at that.
This is a new AD, and she seems to be more open to the NIL. Maybe she seems to be active on social media as well, from what I've seen. I'm just trying to say, the worst they say is no, or they don't, or they ghost you like they said they have. So, that was one of my questions. Actually, that was my final question. Go ahead.
Just going to also say, again, not ripping anybody. Just want to let everybody know, I also requested Lisa Bluter to be on the show. And I was told, no, sorry. So I saw she was on. I saw she was on a different podcast here like a week ago. Maybe that was scheduled out prior to my request, but I'm just letting people know I have attempted to make contact with these people. I'm not just sitting back waiting for them to expecting Lisa Bluter to come to me. No, we were trying to get these people on.
What about Fran? Didn't you have him last summer?
That was closer to the season. I think that was in like October. And they're, both these programs are going on trips, so we'll get them on. I think I appreciate Fran giving me the time last year, and I would be surprised if he doesn't do the same this year, but we'll see. And I'm sure Lisa, I'm not taking a shot at Lisa. My guess is that those aren't even necessarily decisions she's making, but we got content coming, folks. We got content coming.
I'm not worried about. I would just ask. I would just open. I'm not doubting you don't have content.
Don't worry, Tony. I promise. You need to
be
calm
patient.
Down. You need
relax.
to calm down. In the words of Very Close, relax.
Relax. So that was. Do you know that guy? Did he run the Wide Right Natty Light website or that?
You're talking about Levi Stevenson? We had him over at Mark Rogers' show. We've had him on several times on the Iowa channel. He's been with Wide Right Natty Light for years. I don't know if he's a staff. I don't even know what his official title is. I know that he's got me blocked on Twitter. That's one thing I know. He's had me blocked on Twitter for a while.
Now, the reason I bring it up is I thought you were very clear. You were asking a very pointed question of, are you concerned that in this current year, Iowa State has 0 top 12 recruits in the state of Iowa? And he was referencing like the 7-4 thing and the years past. I was like, I think there's a comprehension issue there.
I just want to, I try not to, everybody's into self-promoting. We all have to self-promote, run a business like this. I try to limit that when we're talking about, overdoing it. That podcast, and you can listen to it on audio form here on this platform via Spotify, whatever. That's great listening, I think. I went back and listened to that podcast back, and I know Levi gets under people's skin because they're Hawkeye fans for the most part. I enjoy doing those shows. I know Mark enjoys Levi being on the show. That was a great listen. I agree with you. Like the comparison of, Iowa State had 7 in-state kids in the top 12 in 2021 or the 22 class. Yeah. Whatever the class was, 23. Yeah. Iowa had 4. So it's just going back and forth. No, you've gotten skunked in 24. Yeah. 12-0. Not Iowa. Iowa hasn't had 12, but they've had like 9 and then a couple of them this Minnesota. So we're talking about in-state recruiting. If people miss that conversation, they can go over to our sister channel, Iowa Football at the Voice of College Football, or it's, again, available in audio form here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. I agree with you, and I think that's Levi's way of not wanting to address something that it would be concerning if I was on that end. That just seems so stark to me. If I was an Iowa State fan, I'm looking at that as a Power 5 program within the state of Iowa, and I don't have a single top 12 prospect in the current cycle. I'd be like, what is going on? I mean, because Iowa State has a hard enough time recruiting because they're Iowa State. So you better secure some of the best players in your own state. That's, I think, where the divide between Levi and I was. I think he was trying to kind of make fun of Iowa for relying on in-state recruiting. You kind of have to. Like anybody that's coached here would say you've got to recruit in-state. And that's what made Dan McCarney successful at Iowa State. He had a recruiting base within the state of Iowa. He had that history, and he understood the importance of that. Hayden Fry understood the importance of that, although Hayden did nice work down south and in Texas. But you've got to secure the border, and that's what Kirk has done for the most part throughout his tenure, and he's doing a great job of it in 24. He's doing that, Tony, in spite of the fact that he's like 66 years old. That's the other thing. I'm not saying that he's getting 4 and 5 star kids, but Kirk could retire any year now, and he's got a contract till 29. He could retire any year now, and they've dominated in-state recruiting in 24. Credit to Kirk Ferentz and the staff, because that's hard to do. And then you got a young supposedly an up-and-coming coach in Matt Campbell who's floundering.
And what I didn't get, and maybe this is me because I look into the future with this, is he kept bringing up like, well, it's not Texas, Alabama, Ohio. Well, I know they're getting Houston in the conference, but they're losing Texas. I don't think as many Texas kids are going to be as willing to travel north to Ames now when you see Texas playing in the SEC. So I don't think you can hang your hat on Texas as an Iowa State fan as much as maybe he was portraying there, I guess.
I agree. And Iowa State fans and Big 12 fans enjoy 2023 when you have Oklahoma and Texas plus the 4 others. Because like you said, you're losing 2 powers. And what are you getting in return? You're getting Colorado in return. So,
Well, the ones this year, but
And the ones this year. But I'm just saying
Yeah.
they're going to get them this year, and then they're going to lose Oklahoma and Texas.
And it's going to recruit. It's going to ruin that recruiting base that they may think they have. Because the Big 12 is not going to be, and with losing Texas, now you compare what the Big 12 is going to be versus what the SEC and Big 10 are going to be as well. There will be a tier divide after those two down to the Big 12. I don't think you're going to get the same type of Texas kid that you may want.
Yeah, and for the record, Levi was touting what Iowa State's done in Ohio. Caleb Johnson's from Ohio. They've done really good work in Florida as of late. They do have some guys from the St. Louis area that, when you can recruit those big metropolitan areas, that's a positive. They've had some success down in Kansas City area as well of late. And they've even went out and gotten some players from other states that you wouldn't expect, like Arizona. They got the kid from Devin Kennedy from Arizona, his dad was a really good football player and played at Penn State and was a really good NFL player. And they secured a commitment out of him. They got a quarterback from Florida. And so they have done good things in state and out of state. They're not a top 20 class, but who cares? From Iowa standards, they've done very, very good. And Iowa standards are really all that matter as it relates to Iowa recruiting because of their ability to develop talent.
Now, did Iowa State really get anybody in the portal this year, football wise?
They did somebody. I don't know. They got a kid from Eastern Kentucky, I believe, wide receiver.
Okay.
Yeah, wide receiver from Eastern Kentucky. I believe his name is Jaden Higgins. And then they have several. I know several JUCO kids that they got from the previous cycle, like last year, who I think a lot of people expect them to take a step forward this season. And they lost guys last year in the portal, so they had to go to the portal, just like Iowa had to go to the portal this year. And my big question mark for all of this is, and that's why I wasn't trying to be mean to Levi, but you don't have right now. Iowa State doesn't have a quarterback with any experience, and Hunter Deckers is likely going to be out at least a game. Now, maybe he'll be back for the Cyhawk game. That's possible. But I can tell you, I've been told on 100% authority that he is involved with this gambling investigation. I know that's been a rumor out there, but I'm telling you, he has been involved. What will the impact be? That's yet to be seen. But I've been told he's going to miss at least a game. He's likely to miss at least a game. So that doesn't bode well for an offense in Iowa State that wasn't very good last year either.
Maybe I should
have Cade McNamara is not walking through those doors at Jack Press.
What would happen, do you think, if I wore Iowa Hawkeye stuff and drove down to Hunter's town and asked, what's going on? Because it's not too far. He grew up not too far from Sioux Falls.
Where did he grow up? Tell me. I don't know.
It's a small town in northwestern Iowa or something like that. I want to say it's not like the northwesternmost county. It's the county south of that. So it's probably like a 45-minute drive from where I'm at in Sioux Falls. It's not too far away.
Yeah.
So, but one thing I just want to close on, because I'm a basketball guy. I think that some people don't realize that follow Iowa State football that, one of their biggest donors, it's no secret, has bought the basketball team for a long time. And now that it's in the open, you can see the influx of basketball recruits, but I don't think that's going to happen in football with the NIL. So I do not think their NIL is nearly as strong as Iowa's.
The opposite could be said, Tony, of Iowa's basketball.
Yeah, for
Iowa State's basketball.
For sure. Because there's no big money donors to Iowa basketball in comparison.
There are no big money donors there are a few big money donors that are willing to support the Iowa basketball program
In the current
head, heart, and soul right now.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because Fran is more than willing to go to the portal.
Harwoden, I think that's how you said. James said it's Harwoden, Iowa.
Harwoden, okay.
Yeah, that's where Deckers is from.
I didn't even know that sounds like gibberish to me.
Hey, all these small Iowa towns, man. So,
yeah.
But I appreciate your time, Corey. And you said you had one, what, Sunday or Monday? What was that you said? You did
do a live show either probably Sunday or Monday, so stay tuned. Looking to try to secure somebody else who's going to be with me on the show, so stay tuned for that.
Will that be something we can participate in, or is that?
Oh yeah.
It'll be a
call-in show.
Okay.
We'll be giving these tickets away. You like the Black Keys, Tony?
Oh, that reminds me. Hairball. What's your thoughts on Hairball? You were mentioning
they were just in Ames 2 days ago.
Yep, and they're at the state fair, but they're on the free stage.
Okay.
They're on the free stage, I think Monday and Tuesday.
I'm not a big rock and roll guy. That's why I actually like the Black Keys, and they are rock. Like there's new rock. They're not really even rock. But the Black Keys are cool. I don't mind Hairball, but boy, I can tell you the Main Street District here in Ames was absolutely. Did you see pictures from that? It's absolutely insane.
My wife loves Hairball. She's from up in Minnesota, where they're from. Well, I did not come down. No. But I saw pictures. You asked if I came down, right? No, I did not come down. But I mean, we've been to them many times, and she loves going to see them and stuff like that. So. But I won't take up too much of your time. I appreciate it. So I'll try to. Did the mic sound better, everyone? Did it get better? Or is
I don't know. It sounds like I say, you had some plumbing issues and they got resolved. So
thankfully, I got that plumber on call. I can just press the button. And then everyone get your smokehouse stuff too, and keep supporting them. And I will say I continued the Ascent Nutrition cinnamon and saffron, and now I'm on the subscription plan.
Are you really? Good for you.
Yeah. So and that you can save a few bucks a month by doing this recurring subscription.
What do you like most about it? I'm just curious, not to turn this into a promo, but
no, you're fine. You're fine. I am a diabetic, and the cinnamon has really kept my blood sugars intact, like in my range that I need to have them and stuff like that. So, and the saffron does help my mood. I will say that.
Are you type 1 or type 2?
Type 2.
Good for you. I'm glad to hear that, and that's what it's all about. I'm just glad that you're seeing positive results and you're able to support the show at the same time. I do appreciate that, and I know Lance appreciates that.
Yeah. So, and I'll try to. We're going to finish our basement, and I'll try to see if those Bondurant guys can get me some flooring up here if I need to meet them halfway or something.
They'll take care of it.
So, all right. Thanks, Corey. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tony. All right, a couple questions in the chat. Justin, when does fall camp start for the Hawkeyes? What is it, next Wednesday? Am I right in that? Next Wednesday. I know it's next Wednesday for Iowa State. I think it's next Wednesday for both teams. I would assume it's the same day. It's a good question. Yeah, it's definitely next week. Let's see. There is a super chat here from Erica. Corey, don't feel bad. Brad couldn't get Gary on the phone or to communicate with him either. I'd love to see Jan Jensen on the channel. I will definitely reach out to Jan. The reason the University of Iowa gave me for not giving me Lisa Bluter for a show is the fact that they're prepping for this overseas trip. And I understand that. Again, I'm not ripping anybody. I'm just letting people know that the attempt was made. And maybe I should have made the attempt earlier in the summer. I guess that's on me. But, the Gary Barta thing, you gotta do what you got to do. And I made the attempt, and it is what it is. Gary, updates on gambling. I think we covered that. Nothing concrete. Both Kirk Ferentz and Matt Campbell both talked about the gambling situations at their respective schools, programs. They know which players are potentially involved. They're not going to tip their cap to it. Other than we know Noah Shannon is involved in the investigation. I can tell you on good authority that Hunter Deckers of Iowa State is involved with the investigation, and there are others. So we'll just have to wait and see. Hopefully we get clarity here. Actually, Kirk made the comment that he expects, I've got this written down, a law firm is working with the players that are involved with this, which I thought was interesting. And he's hopeful for answers in August, but he doesn't know that. He's hopeful for answers in early August or late August, but August nonetheless. So we hope that happens and there won't be huge consequences. And the NCAA is going to have to look at their rules, even though they don't know how to do much of anything anymore. So it doesn't seem like, and figure out how to account for the change in laws, legislation, etc. So we'll see if that happens. D. Rollifson, thank you for the super chat. Please remember to like the video. Just got back from Ragbri. Gotta love Iowa, folks. Let's go Hawks. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Thank you for being here. And got back from Ragbri. So you're calling it a week. That's okay. I did Ragbri, let's see, 2016 was it that I did Ragbri? Oh, and our caller just hung up. Sorry, caller. Call us back. Call us back. I got into a rant. Call us back. The number's on the screen, 515-635-1601. 515-635-1601. Call me back. But I did Ragbri back in 16. Great experience. It is a tradition in Iowa unlike any other. And can be dangerous. The heat this week, the humidity. We had a gentleman that left Ames yesterday and went missing. And he ended up, he was an older guy, ended up being found in Newton. He got lost apparently on the way to Des Moines and ended up riding all the way to Newton. So I guess good for him. But there are people that get injured and die every year on Ragbri. So glad you're safe. Glad you had a good time, and enjoy the rest of your hot summer. Cole says, what are your thoughts on the other new coaches and their press conferences? Again, I was impressed with Ryan Walters. I did a Bleacher Report stream with Mark Rogers earlier today on the Bleacher Report app. Talked about Walters and how impressed I am with how he's carries himself. I'd say the same thing about Luke Fickell, the same thing about Matt Rule. To me, and I did listen to the Nebraska head or the Northwestern head coach. To me, the proof is going to be in the pudding on all those guys. They say what you want them to say, what they should say. But again, it's going to be hard. Football is hard to turn around in 1 year or to revive a program, keep a program going when there's changes like this. But it is different with NIL and the transfer portal. I think you have a better chance of doing that quickly now than you ever have in the past. D. Rollison adds that he had a swarm beer on Ragbri yesterday on the stage from Ames to Des Moines. Fun to support the Hawkeyes via beer and much better than Busch Light. Nolan, do you think the tight end duo this year could be as good as Fant and Hawkinson? That's a great question. And I published a segment from a show, I think it was back in June, with myself, Brad Heinrichs, Don Patterson. We talked about that. Brad Heinrichs is really high in the tight end room, as is Kirk Ferentz. I am hesitant to say, oh, yeah, they're going to be as good as Hawkinson and Fant. But they do have similar character. Both those guys have similar characteristics to Hawkinson and Fant. Like Fant was the athletic, smooth, great pass-catching tight end, kind of a wide receiver in a tight end's body. That's kind of what Eric All is. And then you look at Luke Lachey, big frame, has waited for his turn, although Hawkinson played early. I think they have a chance to be really good. And obviously Kirk Ferentz sending Lachey, who's never been a starter, to Big Ten Media Days, I think is an indication of how high he is on him. So good question. I think the tight end room has an opportunity to be absolutely fantastic. Let's see here. A couple more comments in the chat, I believe. Let's see if we can find them here. I see people talking about bootlegging and beer and vodka and all kinds of stuff. So we'll try to find who said what there. I think we got our caller back on the line. Thank you for calling Hawkeye Hangout here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
I'm still horny.
Oh, just so for the record, folks, for the record, and I appreciate him calling in. And I'll say this, and I want to explain myself. I appreciate our buddy boy calling in just a second ago because he alerted me to the fact that I did not have our block feature on. And our block feature has kept that fool off the show for quite a while. But the fact of the matter is, I can tell you in just 2 seconds. Let me find it. That guy waited on hold for 21 minutes. Hung up and then called back to say that. Again, it's summertime. If it was wintertime, you have nothing else better to do. I still don't understand it, but it is what it is. But wow. So thank you for the reminder to make sure that I've got the block feature on for you next time. Got your 2 minutes of fame there. BJ says Barta will never be heard from again, which is good. Yeah, again, I'm not trying to rip Gary, but Bad Penny P. Trash Hardaway says, can we get Brian Ferentz on the show with the Cyclone Sideshow Act from last week and have a real panel discussion? Thank you, Cyhawk C Money. Hawkeye of the Storm is first-class content and coverage. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. And Doc P, thank you for the compliment, and I'll certainly pass that along to Mark Rogers as well. Clint says, tell Barta that the interview will be under 24 minutes. I think it's a little bit of a shot at, I'm assuming, the contract, the Brian Ferentz contract. Justin's here talking about a certain person blocking me on Twitter. Says, wear that like a badge of honor. So appreciate that. People with some friendly rips of our Cyclone counterparts. How about Gus Johnson, Bobby Stoops as guests on here? That's a good. I'd reach out to Bobby. That's a great question. May have to pull out a couple stops on that one. That's a great one. I don't know that I've ever actually considered Bob Stoops. That's a good question. Now, Gus Johnson, what am I talking to Gus Johnson about? He knows football. Don't get me wrong, but Bob's obviously got a strong connection to Iowa. How about a Michigan fan with some compliment for Cade McNamara? Harbaugh and Corum laid heavy praise on Cade. Not surprising at all. I miss him. Go Blue. Good to hear, Bob. I mean, I'm not taking pleasure in you missing somebody. I'm just saying I'm glad to see the Michigan people are trying to say something positive about a guy who left, because that doesn't often happen in college football, college sports in general. Justin says, why didn't the Big 12 wait until OU and Texas to leave next year before accepting those new teams? It seems weird to be loaded for 1 year and then it all shakes up next year. I think the simple response to that, Justin, is it's all about contracts and obligations and whatnot. And it just worked out that way. But again, I don't have the answer to that either. But we're going to find out. I mean, this year is a big year for teams like Cincinnati and Houston to establish themselves. If they have a rough year and it hurts them in recruiting moving forward, they've got Houston's got a great recruiting base down there in Texas. But that, they could have some seriously bad consequences on the schedule, on the final record this year, because of who they're having to go up against, like Oklahoma and Texas. If they can survive and then those teams go away, they can compete for conference titles, assuming that the conference stays intact. But it will be an interesting year in the Big 12 because of the transition, the in-between year. It's also an interesting year for TV coverage in the Big 10 because of the SEC and the CBS deal that's still going until next year. So there's going to be less coverage on CBS, but some, and then it changes over next year. Eric says, Ames sounds like gibberish to me, Corey. Christopher says that I'm not old enough to like hairball. Well, I mean, I wasn't very old when the Black Keys started getting popular, Christopher. And I like a lot of people before my time. I'm a big fan of, who am I a big fan of? I like AC/DC's music at times. Not everything, but a lot of their music. And, hey, who was I listening to earlier today? Jim Croce. There's a name from, I'm guessing most people who are on here do not remember Jim Croce back in the day before he died tragically in a plane crash. Okay, looking to see if there's any more comments that I'm missing. Some negative comments towards certain people. Gary Barta, one of them. Our YouTube user here says, Haywarden and Ireton students go to West Sewer Unity Christian, pronounced Haywarden, right on the South Dakota border. Thank you for the geography lesson there. John D'Adamo, I think I'm pronouncing your name correct, John. Sorry about that. He's with us. He's a frequent on the Mark Rogers show as well. And let's see. BJ's wondering if that was Gary Barta that called in here a few minutes ago. I wouldn't go that far. Yes, John, myself and Mark did do a Big Ten Media Day show earlier today, and that's going to be reposted, I believe, on the Iowa channel, but it was through Bleacher Report. So we appreciate Bleacher Report reaching out to myself and Mark, and we'll hopefully get that on demand for people to listen to, watch very soon. All right, before we end this, last call on the phone lines. If you want to give us a call and talk Hawkeye football, there's still a couple minutes to do that here, folks. And while we're waiting for a potential final caller, I do want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Ascent Nutrition. I've talked about their lion's mane mushroom at length. How about this stuff, folks? I appreciate Tony here a minute ago giving a shout out to Ascent Nutrition. They've been with us for a year as well now, over a year, folks. I mentioned Randy Engel and Under the Kitchen earlier. How about Ascent Nutrition? Owned by an Iowa graduate. And their newly released organic mushroom powders, including the lion's mane mushroom you see here on the screen, their agarikon mushroom. They both have great backstories, and the rare compounds that we see in the new agarikon mushroom, which I'll actually navigate here for you, it's actually showed how through use today and through use in science, it's helped respiratory health, lung health, immune system health, neurological health, healthy inflammatory response, all these things. You can read all about it here on the homepage. This is the homepage, goascentnutrition.com. You'll scroll down. You can scroll through the many different products that Ascent has to offer. And again, as you can see here, so many different products and so many great reviews. You can read firsthand some of the testimony or just go back and listen to someone like Tony that gave his own testimony about some of their products. Here's the agarikon mushroom. And again, you can get a discount at 15% off by using the code Hawkeyes through this channel. Use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your order. This stuff is grown right here in the USA with top national safety and qualification standards. They do genetic testing. They grow their mushrooms longer than others, which just helps the numbers and everything. It's just premium stuff, folks. You can mix it into yogurt, juices, smoothies, cereals, granola, etc. Use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your total order. Again, the website is goascentnutrition.com. Thank you to Lance Shuttler and Ascent Nutrition. Okay. I see a couple more comments. We have anybody on the phone line? Again, the number is 515-635-1601. I don't see anything else. If I'm missing something here, Cyhawk Money has a question about Spencer Petras. What is your take on Spencer? I think highly of his character. He made it happen versus Penn State. We had struggled much throughout the season. I admire what he does from a leadership standpoint. I have no doubt that he's a good leader. He obviously got a lot of flack while he was at Iowa. I hope he can be a good coach. I hope he's got a career there as a coach. But I think it's probably good that he's not on scholarship if he's not going to get any chance of playing. So if that information's true, I'm glad that that decision was made. Steve and Jesse both like Jim Croce, apparently, so that's good to hear. Justin says, Mount Rushmore musicians who died in plane crashes. Jim Croce, Leonard Skinner members who, by the way, Leonard Skinner performed in Des Moines last night. So the irony there. Buddy Holly, of course. Day the music died. Randy Rhoads. We can talk music sometime. Breehawk 65, great show, Corey. Looking forward to the season. Appreciate it. That talking Iowa Hawkeye Sports and Dean Frine. I'm sorry about that, Dean, if I mispronounce your name. Was impressed by Nebraska, Wisconsin, Northwestern coaches, all of which are new, their respective positions. And Bob brings up, Petras may have a chance of helping the team more this year in his new position than last year as a player. That's might be fair. And yes, if anybody missed Mark Rogers' coverage over at Big Ten Media Days, be sure to check it out. Voice of College Football on YouTube. More coverage right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm on YouTube as well. Again, if you are interested in supporting the show, folks, there are a number of ways to do that. Okay? You can shop Amazon with us. Links in the description below. All right? You can do that. You can also sponsor the show by reaching out to me. For instance, you can sponsor Iowa Postgame with Coach Gary Close, even though that doesn't start until later. You can reach out to me about sponsorship opportunities for football or basketball. We've got Don Patterson coming back for another season. That's the email, folks. Just reach out to me. We can set up a call from the eye of the storm at outlook.com. Again, from the eye of the storm at outlook.com, all one word. You can become a premium subscriber by clicking the join button next to the channel name here on YouTube. You can also share the show on social media. That's an easy way for all of you that have Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, whatever, Snapchat, Vine. Is that still a thing? MySpace, whatever. Share it out there, folks. Help us get out there and get the word out on what we're doing here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Follow me on Twitter, which I guess it's now called X. I found that out today. Whatever. At From the Hawkeye on Twitter and Instagram, From the Hawkeye of the Storm on Facebook. Thank you to our sponsors. Be sure to support them. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as well. Those are a couple simple things. Got 112 people watching right now. If we could at least get to 112 likes right now, that would set the video ahead of schedule. So please do that if you can. Just scroll down, hit the like button. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. Click the little bell for notifications. And of course, you can also support the show by signing up for a free trial of Aura. Yes, you're supporting the show by getting a free trial. And Aura is a great company. They'll protect your information. Learn more by visiting the website. Click on the link in the description below. Or actually, let me throw it up in the live chat. I don't believe we have it in the description. I'm going to show it. I'm going to throw it up here in the live chat right now. Again, by just signing up for a free trial, you are supporting the cause here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. And they will protect your information. And a lot of people are trying to corrupt information and take your information. Again, that's aura.com/Hawkeyes. Just threw it up in the live chat. And of course, you can donate. You can donate as well. I've talked about that at length. Donate to the channel by means of Super Chat or PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, all available in the description. If you assume someone else will do it and everybody says that, then nobody does. It's a reality of it, and that's the nature of the work. We appreciate all the people who make donating possible. We had a couple Super Chats earlier. We appreciate them. We've got our premium subscribers here. We appreciate you as well. All right. A couple final questions that got thrown in here late. Justin says, I need your username on AIM. You need my username on AIM. I have no idea what that is. Is that because I'm an old man now? What is AIM? Someone tell me. Let's see. Brandon, will any of the current Iowa coaches be on this program or current football players? It's hard this time of year, Brandon. We'll have Media Day coverage. I can tell you that. I'll be at Media Day here in a couple of weeks. I'm talking about Iowa Media Day. But stay tuned. We may have some stuff coming up. And Erica wants to see LeVar Woods. That's a great idea. This is a busy time. I mean, they're starting fall camp next week. And you're not going to be seeing any of those assistants on a live show here during the month of August. That's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Probably no chance of it happening during the season either. But again, stay tuned because we may have some surprises out there. Shane says, is there any concern over the linebacking core being completely new? Well, they're not completely new, Shane. I mean, Carson Shire's young, but he got some time, saw good time on special teams. Jay Higgins has seen a lot of time. The coaching staff has a lot of confidence in him. Kyler Fisher is a senior. Nick Jackson has a ton of experience at the Power 5 level from Virginia. So, yes, they're new players to Iowa in some respects into playing time, but I am not as concerned as I was a few months ago. Barbara, Corey, it was mentioned here in the chat that a bill was introduced to Congress to prevent alcohol for NIL collectives. Yeah, I don't know that. Again, I guess I'd have to look that up, but I don't know. That'd be a better question for Brad. And again, I had not heard that. John, think Xavier Wampa will be an All-American at the end of the year? Great question. Wouldn't it be great if he was, and you had Cooper DeJean and Xavier Wampa back there on top of maybe a Quinn Schulte that's preseason All Big Ten, and a Jamari Harris who knows, so coming off an injury. Again, they could be really, really good on the back end. Cyhawk C-Money, who is the vocal leader of the defense? I would guess it's probably Jay Higgins, given the fact that he was at Media Day. That tells me the coaching staff thinks highly of his leadership skills. But Noah Shannon, I think they think highly of him as well. And I'm sure there's a couple of guys up front on that defense that they think highly of, Logan Lee being another. I'm sure they think highly of Y.A. Black and Joe Evans. But I would guess Jay Higgins might be the leader. And I know people are high on Cooper DeJean, but given the fact that Jay is likely going to be the guy in the middle, I would not be surprised if he's the leader. And Erica wants to get Higgins' dad on the show. Let's see if we can do that as well. All right, folks. Brandon, okay, we'll get one more question in here. How many different positions will we see Cooper being used at this next year? He's excelled at everything so far. If I had to put my money down, which I don't bet, but I would say one position. My guess is he sticks at corner. Now, maybe if the injury bug hurts them somewhere, they'll move him around, but I doubt it. And if they play him on offense, it's probably because they've had a lot of issues with personnel on offense, and you hope that's not the case. I know there was talk about maybe seeing him on offense here and there at some point, but with Caleb Brown and Seth Anderson, those guys being added, hopefully those guys can be difference makers and you don't have to force yourself to play Cooper on both sides of the ball. Now, I'm fine with throwing him out there here and there once in a while, but that's not a Kirk Ferentz thing to do. So we'll see. Maybe he's turned a leaf. Probably not, but you never know. All right, folks. Again, this show will be podcasted on our podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, Google, etc. Again, please hit that like button on the way out. Stay tuned. More coverage here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Live show here in the next few days. Black Keys tickets. Turn your notifications on. We'll be giving away free tickets to see the Black Keys at the Iowa State Fair. And we'll be giving away Iowa State Fair tickets, general admission tickets to the Iowa State Fair. Stay tuned. A lot of stuff coming here in the next month, folks. 37 days to kickoff. Thank you for watching another live edition of Hawkeye Hangout. Have a great night.